What do you want? What is one thing that you've always so desperately wanted to have? That vulnerable, scared little kid inside you which always leaves you just a little uneasy, unhappy, and lonely. What do they want? And why don't they have it yet? Who took it away and when? The moment where the world popped their little bubble and scared them with nightmares they'll never forget and left them out in the dark, out in the cold to dry? The only thing fair about life is that it is unfair to everyone. A harsh, unforgiving bully who knows exactly what you want and purposefully taunts it at you by keeping it just out of reach. No matter how fast you run, how hard you try, and how much you work, it's just there, right at your fingertips, rubbing it in your face. What if it never gets easier? What if it never ends? What if this is forever? That would be tragic. But maybe there is a light at the end of the tunnel. Maybe you're right on the brink of a lucky break, or you've managed to survive through the worst part. Maybe after 5 long years of crushing loneliness, you could make friends again. That would be hopeful. And that's how you control the tone of your story. You either give your characters what they need, or you don't. So, what do we need? To answer that, we need to put my psych degree into work and talk about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Don't worry, it's not that complicated. Maslow's hierarchy of needs points out 5 basic things that all of us want and need to be happy, and ranks them according to the order of how you achieve those things. Number 1, food and water. Number 2, shelter and protection. Number 3, love and acceptance from your community. 4, confidence and sense of achievement. Number 5, self-expression and growth. Pretty self-explanatory. All of us and all of the characters you will ever write will want one of these 5 things. And as the writer playing God, you get to decide whether they get it, when they get it, and how much of it they get. If you want a cozy story, you give them these things constantly. By doing that, you give your characters and your readers that aww feeling that makes cozy stories feel, well, cozy. It shows them that no matter how bad things get, there will always be a light at the end of the tunnel, and the happy ending will always come. So take a look at your outline and the scenes you've written, and think about how you can end them with this wholesome note. Every episode of Avatar: The Last Airbender, especially in the earlier seasons, always ended with Aang and his friends laughing together aboard Appa as they fly off into their next adventure. The need being met is, of course, friendship and support. That's why Atla makes for such a good comfort show. But, of course, there's a limit to this. There's only so many scenes in your story to use, and not all of them can be used for wholesome moments. Also, at some point, your readers will get tired of it. So, on top of giving it out frequently, you can also make these moments more potent by giving it to those who need it most. A nice home-cooked meal to an orphan means a whole lot more than a meal to a stable, healthy working adult. A small group of friends who will always stick by your side means a lot more to a kid whose race was entirely wiped out by the Fire Nation than, say, the Earth King. Naturally, you'd assume that to write a story like this, where characters always get what they need, the story would need to be chill and have lower stakes. Like those 90s family sitcoms where the conflict is about the kid having to do a class presentation. Those Hallmark Christmas movies all about finding the magic of Christmas. Or romance movies where you know the guy and the girl will get together in the end. Everything's Gonna Be Okay, the show I talked about in the autism video, is a good example of this. The plot is just about Matilda and Genevieve getting through school and Nick's relationship with his boyfriend. This simple plot allows the writers to inject many cute, wholesome moments that we don't see a lot of in other autism stories that are too focused on showing the challenges. But that's not always the case, because giving or taking away these needs controls the core tone of the story, whereas everything else is just vibes and aesthetics. The core tone of your story transcends that. That means it's not enough to just copy superficial details of some cozy story and call it a day. It also means that you can keep your story cozy, or at the very least hopeful, even if you tackle darker topics. And on top of that, by keeping it cozy through meeting your character's need, even in the face of a dark topic or setting, that contrast between the aesthetics and the core tone will make a story extra cozy, maybe even inspiring. Beartown, the book I talked about in the Show Don't Tell video, is a very cozy book. All the cute, wholesome tropes we all love show up here. BFFs sticking together? Check. Love at first sight? Check. Everlasting love of a long marriage? Check. Heroic moments of rebellion to seek justice for a victim? Check. Bullies redeeming themselves and making amends with their victims? Check. A small young girl that everyone protects at all costs? Check. Parents showing small, invisible gestures of love to their kid and vice versa? Check. And guess what the book is about? It's about rape. Don't worry, I won't get into it. I'm not the person for that. After Mr. Anderson... After Maya Anderson, the protagonist, gets assaulted, all the named characters we are invested in band together around her and give her all the love and support she needs to heal. Her mother, a lawyer, and her father, the general manager of the hockey club, wage war against the entire town, even at the risk of their jobs and safety, to bring their daughter justice. Amat, the smallest, weakest kid in the hockey club who often gets picked on, speaks up and gives his testimony of witnessing the assault at the risk of getting beaten up. And as he's getting beaten up, one of the bullies switches sides and rushes in to defend him. In the end, they wind up in hospital beds together and become new best friends moving forward. Maya herself takes a gun and chases her assaulter into the woods and instills the same fear in him by firing a blank, making the guy literally piss himself. After that, his family moves out and never comes back again. Maya, a victim of sexual assault, needs love and support and justice for what was done to her more than anyone. And over the course of 3 books, the author gives it to her, over and over and over again until she heals and becomes a world-famous musician who channels her experience into her lyrics. That's how Beartown managed to make a story about rape inspiring. The core of your story does not concern itself with superficial vibes and aesthetics. It only concerns itself with the journey of its characters and whether they get what they need in the end. But what if you wanted to take it away instead? Then you end up with a tragedy. And let's be real, that's what we writers are really after, aren't we? Let's make our stories dark and depressing, and edgy and deep and emo. Take away what your characters need and never give it to them. Ever. No matter how hard they try, how hard they fight, how much they plead and beg and cry for it, never give it to them. The further away their needs are from getting met, the more tragic your story gets. Trap them in a conflict that's gotten so bad that there's frankly no hope of improvement. Having to make peace with the entire outside world who discriminates against your kind and wishes nothing more for all of you to be dead is no easy task. But Armin and the Scouts still try their best anyway by doing peace talks and finding any allies they can. So, how do we completely destroy their efforts and make peace completely impossible? Simple. We destroy the outside world so there is no outside world to make peace with. That's what made the Rumbling so tragic. And, to squeeze out even more tragedy, don't just have your characters lie down and die. Even if they know how bad things are, make them fight. Make them try. Make them struggle. Have them give it their all. Have them sacrifice their friends and comrades. Force them to kill those who've switched sides and never give them a break. The moment where it all amounts to nothing only hits hard if there was a lot which amounted to nothing. Also, have them get close. Have them reach so close to the good ending just at their fingertips, then yank it away because of unfortunate coincidences or of flaws that ultimately got the best of them. Do you know how close the Alliance was to prevent the Rumbling from the start? All that needed to change was for Gabby to aim her shot higher. The bullet would have blown up Aaron's head, and according to Peak in the previous episode, he would have had no time to transform and heal. He'd die on the spot. All it took to stop the Rumbling was for Gabby to aim higher. That's already pretty sad. But believe it or not, we can go sadder. We can go so sad that the story isn't tragic, but downright depressing. Tragedies, or at least how I see it, are stories where the happy ending is just shy of coming true, just shy of a headshot. More depressing stories? There aren't enough headshots to get a happy ending. In fact, nothing can get you the happy ending. It's downright impossible. Many stories aim to motivate, to inspire, to give people hope, but depressing stories are used to scare, to warn us of what not to do, or of what we need to do to prevent this. And there isn't a show that gives more potential warnings to us than Black Mirror. You know when you just switch off your phone or your TV and you see your reflection on just the black screen? That's where the title comes from. Our technology is the black mirror that reflects our worst tendencies and shows us that if we don't keep it in check as technology continues to advance, we can wind up in some complete dystopia. Nosedive shows how our innate need to compare and rank one another using likes and views or subscribers can end up, in the most literal means, dictating our very lives. White Bear shows the final Dark Souls boss of cancel culture, and the monster we become when we are too down bad for justice and punishment. But my favorite one that'll always stick with me because I'm seeing it more and more nowadays is 15 Million Merits. This guy, living in an absolute dystopia where they torture you if you skip ads, tries to rebel against the system after one of his friends was forced to do porn. He risks everything to get on that stage and gives a strong, uplifting speech to inspire everyone to rise up.
And fuck you! Fuck you! That's what it boils down to, is fuck you! Fuck you for sitting there and slowly knitting things worse. Fuck you and your spotlight and your sanctimonious faces, and fuck you all for taking the one thing I ever came close to anything real about anything. But oozing around it and crushing it into a bone, into a joke. One more ugly joke in the kingdom of millions, and then fuck you. Fuck you for happening. Fuck you for me, for us, for everyone. Fuck you.
If Black Mirror was a cozy story, he and all his friends would band together and get him on that stage that shows the power of their friendship, and his speech would incite the revolution that frees everyone from this hell. But it's not. Black Mirror is depressing. So after he gives his speech, the judge turns his activism into a TV program, and everyone just watches it while they're on the treadmill. His heroic cry for revolution and change becomes nothing but content. He never had a chance to change this world at all. Like I said in the Beastars video, it's ridiculous to expect a singular person to change the world. But unlike Beastars, 15 Million Merits takes it a step further and shows that nothing can change the world. Nothing can rise above the nightmarish system of dystopian capitalism. God, this show is so depressing. And that's it. That's all you gotta do. Figure out what your characters need and have them work for it, and decide whether you want to give it to them and by how much. And that alone will determine the core tone of your story. It's really that simple. That's kind of the point, isn't it? To have the core of your story be simple? To have your story touch on something that everyone can resonate with, like wanting to be safe, wanting to have food and water, wanting to have friends and family, wanting to succeed, and wanting to express yourself and grow. We're all humans, and what we want is simple, because that's also ultimately what we want, simplicity. Life is complicated, and it throws so many curveballs our way that it makes even just mere survival difficult sometimes, let alone getting our needs met. So really, is there anything we want more than just having things be a little simpler to get through? So when a story does exactly that, when it takes a complicated world or magic system or conflict and boils it all down and shows you how it really isn't that complicated at the end of the day, there's a lot of power in that. Think about the most powerful moments in storytelling you've ever sat through. The chances are, this is exactly what they're doing, boiling something complicated down to something simple. Like, for example, Jinx firing the rocket at the end of Season 1 of Arcane. It's such a powerful moment. The blue steam of the rocket contrasting against the red sky, and how it symbolizes all that pent-up rage and disappointment and pain that Jinx has been holding in ever since Vi left her. But why is it powerful? How is it symbolic of all these things? What does that mean? Symbolic. It means this scene, this action of firing the rocket, managed to boil down something complicated into something simple. Think about everything else that's been happening up to this point. The conflict between Piltover and Zaan is reaching a boiling point, and both sides are trying to hunt her down. Vi is on one side trying to convince her that Powder is still alive inside her, and Silco and Caitlyn are on the other trying to convince her that Powder is dead and she's Jinx now. Couple that with all the hallucinations and visions that eventually lead her to kill Silco. There's so many different factions and goals and characters and conflicts. And how do the writers express all that? How do they tie all these ideas together? They tie it together using a rocket. First of all, the rocket resolves Jinx's final decision on how she views herself. She views herself as Jinx, and what is more Jinx than a rocket? This invention she made from scrap parts without any formal education or background in science or engineering, it's her. This rocket is her, and it firing towards the Piltover Council is her revenge against what Piltover took from her, and it makes the perfect resolution to her arc. And secondly, the conflict between Zaun and Piltover is resolved by making peace officially impossible. War is now inevitable, and lastly, this is just a powerful cliffhanger to leave the first season on. It's so hype! That's what symbolism is! That's why this scene is so powerful. It took the entire plot of Arcane up until that point and represented it all with a single rocket. That act of representing all these complicated parts with a single thing, a symbol, that is absolute cinema. That's what symbolism is, and that's why people love it so much. It's not just visual storytelling either. The same thing also happens in books. That's what poeticism means. The same act of representing something complicated with a simple thing, which in prose form would be using simple words, would make those words poetic. Something like, cynicism is simply a chemical reaction to too much disappointment. From the second book of Beartown, titled Asano's Spew. Life is complicated, but stories are not. Stories are simple people needing simple things, and about things being made simple. And if you, the writer, are able to do that with your words, your shots, your scenes, that's art. And that's what the core of your story is. Simple.
We all sin if I bring